Hi, welcome to James Miller Lifeology, where you learn to simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. My name is James Miller. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a composer. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Let's get started. If you're anything like me, your health is very important to you. I know you listen to the show for tips to simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. Well, I have some great news for you. James Miller Lifeology has partnered with BioOptimizers Nutrition. As an avid nutrition and exercise enthusiast, I thought I knew a lot. But after taking the 12-week health course BioOptimizers offers and implementing their supplements, I noticed a huge difference in my energy and my digestive tract. Since you're a listener of Lifeology Radio, BioOptimizers is offering you the same 12-week course absolutely free. Go to jamesmillerlifeology.com/supplements to take this free course. Here is a sample of what you'd learn. How to get 70% more energy in 30 seconds or less. The ultimate key to high performance, health, and longevity. How to turn the tide against uncontrollable food cravings. How to select the most powerful supplements for you. How to stay lean and trim without sacrifice. The simplest and fastest way to detoxification and great skin. And much, much more. To get access to this awesome health course, simply go to jamesmillerlifeology.com/supplements and sign up today. Once again, visit jamesmillerlifeology.com/supplements or simply go to jamesmillerlifeology.com. I have a great show for you today. I'm going to explain the importance of altruism. I'll also be interviewing author and leadership expert Art Barter, who has a unique philosophy on leadership. In his company, he has successfully implemented servant leadership and has raised their revenue by 2,000%, as well as created relationships with consumers that blows competitors out of the water. He reviews this process in his latest book, The Art of Servant Leadership, Part 2. How you get results is more important than the results themselves. For more information about art and servant leadership, please visit servantleadershipinstitute.com. You may also purchase his book on Amazon or in the store at jamesmillerlifeology.com. I have some exciting news. Did you know that I'm on the radio 3 times a week? You may hear me on the same station on Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m., Fridays at 9:30 a.m., and Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. You may also hear me anytime on iHeartRadio as well as on all the other major podcasting platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and many others. Simply search for the show name, James Miller Lifeology. Are you struggling today to find your purpose? Has mediocrity set in and you can't imagine doing the same thing for the rest of your life? Are your relationships struggling or you aren't sure how to make long-lasting changes in your life? Then today, contact me, James Miller. I will help you recognize the areas in your life that are going really well, and then we'll look at the areas in which you are struggling. We will create actionable solutions to help you create long-lasting changes in your life. You don't have to do this alone. Go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, and click on the page, Work with James. Fill out the form, and it will be sent directly to me. Don't let another day go by without finding your way. Your change can start today. Once again, go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, and click on the page, Work with James. Fill out that form to get started today. The importance of altruism. Altruism essentially means doing something for someone else without expecting anything in return. A good example to think about is, as a child, your parents do something for you. You wake up and there's your favorite chocolate chip cookies, or they bring a gift home from a work trip. Those types of things are done without any expectation of receiving something in return. As a child, we feel so good about that. It feels amazing. Fast forward years later, you do something for a friend of yours, or you do something for your own children. How do you think that makes them feel? We don't realize that altruism is a very important part of our society. Often we think, I'm only going to do something for somebody if they do something for me in return. And at times that philosophy makes sense, but other times it doesn't. How different would the world be if we all had this concept of altruism, doing something for our family or even our peer group without expecting anything in return? In just a few minutes, you're going to hear an amazing interview with Art Barter, who talks about servant leadership. I wanted to expand that to the form of altruism in our everyday life. We can link altruism, in other words, doing something for someone else without expecting anything in return, in a very similar fashion to being a servant to others. And being a servant does not mean to acquiesce to other people's whims, or to be less than, or to be one of their employees. It just simply means doing something for others and wanting to improve or enhance their life. Think about this in your friend group. If you and your friends continually do things for each other because you thought of them, you thought it would be something nice for them, how amazing would that friend group be? How tight and how bonded would you be? The more we do things for other people without expecting anything in return, the byproduct is we actually do feel better ourselves. The reason why is because when we are able to enhance the lives of other people, it actually releases neurotransmitters in our own body, which causes us to feel better. Now, if our motivation was to do something for someone else so that we would look better, unfortunately, those neurotransmitters would not actually be excreted in our body. The neurotransmitters are serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. Those types of neurochemicals are actually the feel-good chemicals. So the great byproduct of all of this is when you do other things for other people without expecting anything in return, your body automatically blesses you and gives you a wonderful return as well. You feel really good about yourself. Studies have actually shown that those people who live more of an altruistic life, or who volunteer for different types of things, or who give out of their time and energy, actually live longer. And the reason why is because more of these neurotransmitters that are secreted in our body decreases cortisol levels, or even just simply decreases the fight or flight syndrome, which affects us and causes us to always live with tension in our body. So the more often you're altruistic, you're actually going to live longer, believe it or not. So the whole lesson today is just simply, how can you be more of a servant, or how can you do other things for your peers or even strangers without expecting anything in return? The more you're open to this, to just simply do things because it's kind, you'll find that your own life starts to become enhanced. You'll find that the people around you start to act the same way or start to emulate you. And pretty soon, your friend group, your family, your work group, all of you start to live a life of altruism. Now, with that being said, we want to make sure that we keep in mind that we all have boundaries. Anything that goes beyond our personal boundaries of what keeps us safe, we need to recognize that there's a difference between that. Just because I can do other things for other people does not mean I always should if it crosses my personal boundaries. So keep in mind, there's always checks and balances. But when you're able to give out to other people in an altruistic way, you'll find that there's so many benefits to that. So today, look for opportunities to be altruistic. Did you know I have a YouTube channel? That's actually how Lifeology started. I have well over 155 episodes that I've created specifically for you. I do know that many people struggle with listening to a full 30-minute show. So these episodes are about 3 minutes long. Each episode will give you a practical tool or technique that you can practice daily to help you simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. Simply go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, or go to YouTube and search for my name, James Miller Lifeology. My guest today is Art Barter, an author and leadership expert who has a unique philosophy that he teaches. Today, he reviews his latest book, The Art of Servant Leadership, Part 2. How you get results is more important than the results themselves. Welcome to my show, Art.
James, great to be with you this morning. Looking forward to spending some time with you and talking about leadership.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming back. My listeners don't know this, but Art had a fantastic interview with me, but unfortunately there was a little bit of a technical difficulties. So he is back for round 2, and we're going to do even better than we did the first time. So once again, Art, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Sounds good, James. Sounds good.
Perfect. Now, you have done so many amazing things. I mean, the first interview, I don't want to keep talking about it, but the first interview blew me away with all the wonderful things that you have done in your own company. You really are an expert on the servanthood leadership style, and I really can't wait to talk about it. Now, one of the things that you and your wife did is you purchased a company called Datron World Communications, and I believe you bought that in 2004, and within 6 years, it went from $10 million in annual sales to over $200 million. It blows my mind, and a lot of it was due to this servant leadership. Is that correct?
It was mostly due to the culture we had instilled with servant leadership beliefs and practices and behaviors, and I don't think we could have done that without that leadership approach.
Well, let's talk about that. So my listeners who may not know what that servant leadership is, what exactly is that?
Well, a lot of people have different definitions of servant leadership. Greenleaf, who brought that into the corporate world back in the 70s, one of his measures was, do those you serve grow? But as a leader at Datron, I had to, what I believe that servant leaders do is they meet people where they are. So I had to come up with what's the definition for servant leadership for the Datron company. Mm-hmm. And what we focused on and what we came up with was we want to inspire and equip those we influence. Now, we didn't say those that report to us or those that are part of the company. What we believe is everyone is a leader because everyone influences someone around them. Mm. And so we approached it from that standpoint. But what we wanted to do was inspire people with a great mission and purpose. And we basically said we want to be a self-sustaining, profitable. So we have to make money. We have to get results. We have to do it without debt. We don't believe in getting results with debt. Mm-hmm. to positively impact the lives of others today and in the future. And so we added that in the future because it was just as important to support customers after we sold it product to them as it was to sell product to them, or get to that point where we're able to sell to them. So we want a relationship with that customer regardless of where we are in the cycle with them, whether we're trying to sell them product, delivered product, or supporting product after the fact. So positively impact the lives of others today and in the future. And one of the things we instilled was we created a charitable fund. We put 10% of our operating profits every quarter into that fund.
Oh, wow.
And we let our employees give that money away, and that's how they live our purpose of positively impacting the lives of others. So they get to live that through the charitable fund work because they helped create that profit.
So with that, they give that to different charities, or that goes to them?
No, different charities.
Oh, wow.
Set aside, and it goes to a 501c3 of their choice. And all we ask them to do is tell us why that charity is on your heart. Why does it mean so much to you?
That's amazing, Art. I really like your mission because the people that you influence, it definitely dispels or it quashes that us versus them mentality when it comes to management versus employees. But not only that, but when you create that culture, an intrinsic culture within the company, it then also trickles out to the sales that you do. It trickles out to the consumers with whom you associate. And I would just really like that because it changes the whole paradigm of how a company really will work, because there's there are hierarchical roles, but because everybody influences everybody to make a product work, to make a company work in a I guess a large organism, that really is a revolutionary way to look at things. And obviously no wonder that's why you guys are so successful.
Yeah, and when you give people a great purpose and you inspire them and then equip them, you can have great values, you can have a great mission, you can have great purpose. But if you don't spend the money to train them, give them the tools they need, let them go do their job. And then for leaders, sometimes the most important thing we can do is get out of the way. You've done your job. You've inspired, you've equipped, you've trained. Now let them go do what you've trained them to do and get out of their way.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So how do you really remind leaders to do that? I mean, in other words, where is that fine line to say, okay, we've equipped them, we've trained them, let them go? How do you know when to let them go? Let your employees go?
Well, I put most of my time in mentoring and coaching the leaders in my company. So managers, directors, vice presidents, and so my time is spent mentoring and watching their behavior to ensure that their behavior reflects those of a servant leader. And what I want to help your listeners understand is you've got to give leaders a break. Leaders are people. They're going to make mistakes. Yes. Don't put them on a pedestal because they'll disappoint you because nobody's perfect. And so we're all going through this transformation of a different mindset together. We all went through it together as a leadership team and as a company. And, there's a lot of grace that has to happen when you start thinking about serving people first and putting others above yourself, because people are going to go back to their world they were trained in before we got into serving. I was trained as a power leader for almost 25 years.
Oh, goodness. Huge difference.
I've got some good power leader behaviors buried in me. And every now and then, James, they come out. And to get people to understand that, I had my senior team and I were having a tough discussion one day about servant leadership. And one of my staff members says, Art, what do you want? You're kind of frustrated. What do you want? And I said, I would love to receive as much grace from you as I give to you. Because grace goes both ways.
Yes, it does.
And, one of the staff members came back to me the next day. She says, you know what? You've forgiven me for making so many mistakes. She says, it's about time I start forgiving you for the mistakes you make and not expecting you to be perfect.
Wow.
And, that's the type of environment you're able to get to when you're about serving other people, but it's not about you, where you can have those open and honest conversations going, hey, yeah, I'm the CEO, but I have life struggles just like you do.
Yes.
Right. My life isn't perfect. And so, extend me some grace. And so, you grow together, you transform together, people watch your behaviors. Leaders, when you're in a position of leadership, people watch how you behave.
Yes, they do. And it's not only just in the office. I mean, I've had people who see me out in the normal my normal life, and
that's Yep.
And I'm like, oh, thank God. I look back at my comportment and my behavior, and I'm like, oh, thank God that I was congruent with who I am. I mean, which is normally who I am. But you often want to just be aware of that people are always watching you, whether you realize it or not. And it's important to be congruent and that your integrity always shines through, regardless. But I wanted to go back to what you said as far as when they asked what you want. You're being able to give grace both ways. That really removes the ego, because when we realize, or our staff realizes, that we are fallible, it removes that facade, that ego facade that we often create as a leader, to say, I have all the answers, I know what I'm doing, you follow me. And to remove that facade allows for people to just relax, to exhale, to be able to rely on everybody else to say, well, there are checks and balances to make sure that we all are moving in this intrinsic way to move towards serving the people around us, which then in turn serves our clients as well. So I really like how it dispels that myth of the ego.
And once you instill that culture, I love to go down and talk to people on our manufacturing floor when we have a problem, because they're the ones that are building the product. Tell me where you're struggling. Well, that approach is great when you're implementing and changing your culture, because you have to show the way for your leaders. But once they get it and they start doing that, then my role as CEO is not to do that anymore, and let my leadership team go do that and create the relationship with the people. So it isn't that I go walk around the floor every day and talk to people. I train my leaders to the point where they get to do that. They get the relationship. And when I go out on the floor, people don't panic. They're going, what's Art doing out there today? Who's he talking to? What kind of problems? They're going, sure. Art's out there having a good time talking to people, and that's great.
So you almost train down, in the sense of you train, what's the word I'm looking for? You role model what you want your staff to do, or what you want your leaders to do. And then as they do that, then you perhaps role model to the next level up.
And keep going. And, we decided that when we started training on servant leadership, to train everybody in the company. Because like I said before, we believe everybody's a leader. But what we wanted to do was we wanted to surround people with the servant leadership culture, so that if I did have someone in the company who hadn't bought into our culture, that they would run into servant leadership, whether they went and talked to their leadership team, their peers, or people that work for them. They ran into servant leadership everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And when you do that, at some point in time, the person who doesn't want to jump on board with your culture will decide, you know what? I'm getting surrounded by this stuff. I can't take it anymore. I need to go find somewhere where it's more enjoyable for me. And that's okay. And what I try and help people to understand is the servant leadership culture isn't for everybody. And it doesn't make them a bad person if they don't fit in. It's just our role now becomes, how do we help them find a company that will accept them the way they are?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, which is still a point of servitude. Yeah.
Yeah. So we always say that our serving people and helping people doesn't end with the employment contract.
I like that. Yeah.
Right? Because we serve the life. We don't serve the employment contract. And so our responsibility is, how do we positively impact that life, whether they're with us or not?
I wanted to jump over into your book, because I remember what we talked about before is, your company creates communication. Well, first off, why don't you tell us what Datron Communication does?
Yes, Datron is in the military communications business. We make handheld radios, man-pack radios that go on the back of soldiers. They go into military vehicles, base stations. We do ground forces and naval forces. We're on a lot of Navy ships as well. But we don't sell to the U.S. military. We sell to foreign militaries.
Mm-hmm. This is what I love. Yeah. So keep going.
And so we go help those countries that the U.S. is trying to help create democracy. So we're very active in the Middle East. We're very active throughout Africa. And what we love to do is we love to go into countries and ask them, how can we help you with your mission? Mm-hmm. And all the generals that I've talked to over the years, all of them want two things. They want to provide security for their nation, for their country, or sovereignty, and security for their citizens. And I'm going, well, that's exactly what we want to do here in the United States, protect our country and protect our citizens. And all of the people that we serve, they want to do it with great communication, so they don't have to do anything else. Yeah. And one of the first customers I dealt with was in Zimbabwe. I dealt with the Zimbabwe Republic Police. And there was a signals officer there that we went in, and they were looking to do a countrywide HF system and high frequency. And I asked Eric, I said, how can I help you? He says, Art, I don't have a great president. Every time we have elections, we have demonstrations. He says, I want to control those demonstrations with great communications so we don't have to use weapons.
Mm.
And I said, Eric, why is that so important to you? Why is that so close to your heart? He says, because the people who demonstrate are my friends and sometimes my family.
Oh, wow.
So think about that. He wants to help let them voice their opinion, do it in a safe way so they don't have to do anything. And I said, Eric, I will help you do that. And about 6 or 7 years after we installed the equipment there was an article that came out by the one of the major news organizations that said the recent elections in Zimbabwe were the least violent in the country's history.
Oh my gosh, wow.
All right, and that was published in the paper here in San Diego. And I took that article, got all the employees together, and I said, guys, this is why we do what we do. Our equipment saves lives.
Mm.
That's what we're all about. We want to save lives. And so it's really important that the equipment that goes out of here can save a life the minute it can be turned on. So if you don't think it should go out the door, you need to raise your hand and say, no, I'm not going to let this go out the door, because it's a personal thing. We want to help save lives.
Because it's not just you filling an order. You're really, there's a meaning behind it. There's power behind it in the sense of you really are saving lives. If this is a faulty equipment that you're sending out, I mean, then that potentially could raise, some problems there, of course.
You got people and militaries that are in some very, very difficult parts of the world, and we want the technology to work. We want it to be easy to use. And the reason we do that is so that individual can focus on their mission and not the technology.
Yeah.
We got people who want to give everybody in the world the best technology in the world. Well, that isn't what the mission needs. They don't need the best technology. They need technology that works when they need it to work.
And I really like that. That's a really powerful distinction. I mean, you can have the most bells and whistles, but if the bells and whistles are like perhaps a prototype and you need it in that moment, it's not, and it doesn't work. I mean, well, doesn't matter how many bells and whistles you have, you're in trouble.
It doesn't matter. And what our customers like about it is we give them the technology they can use, and the price of the equipment reflects that. So they don't have to pay for all this technology that they're never going to use.
Yeah.
Right. And when the generals started to understand our approach to that, they said, well, what about my high-end security guys that, we know they're going to have to go out on NATO missions and communicate with U.S. forces? I said, don't risk those lives by giving them our equipment. Go give them our competitors' equipment that the U.S. military has.
Wow.
And the general says, you want me to buy someone else's? I said, yes, because here's what I believe. I believe only 10, maybe 15 or 20% of your military is high-end security forces that need that equipment. Mm-hmm. The other 80%, they'll never use the technology. So why pay for that?
Wow.
And we don't want to put people's lives at risk. So if our equipment doesn't meet that need, go buy someone's equipment who does, because we don't want to put lives at risk. And, generals don't hear that from people.
Mm-hmm.
What they hear from companies is, here's what we have to sell. You have to buy it. And you have to buy it for everybody. We take a different approach. First, we want to know what their mission is. We want to understand what their challenges are. I had one customer come and tell me, he says, Art, your radios are too difficult to operate, and they don't work. I said, well, I think they do. What's the real issue? He says, the real issue is 80% of the men we recruit in our military can't read or write their own language.
Oh.
He says, I have to teach them how to read and write. I have to teach them how to use your radio. And then I have to deploy them in the first 90 to 180 days.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. So tell me what you want in a radio. And he came back in 30 days and told me 5 things he had to have in a radio. We went off. I said, give me a year. And a year later, I traveled into that country. And it was Afghanistan. I traveled into Kabul and hand-delivered the first radio to the general in his office and said, excuse me, General, I made this for you. Radio was made specifically for you guys.
Mm.
And he looked at me and he had a little tear in his eye and he said, Art, he says, no one has ever done this for me before. I said, General, we believe in your mission. We're here to help you. I want to equip you with the tools you need to do your job. So we meet them where they are and give them the equipment they need to do their mission, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing about this book that, The Art of Servant Leadership Part 2 that I really want my listeners obviously to purchase, but it goes through the whole story of Datron, of how they went from from when you purchased it to the implementation of this and the process and it really just teaches, I guess, the techniques and of what worked for you and what didn't work. So I know a lot of the people who purchase this book, when they look at their own companies, they can really use you guys as a template to really help and change their own culture of their company as well.
Right. And here's what I would encourage people who read the book. Don't take that and just implement it. You're a leader in your company. You get information from me, the Kim Blanchards, the Maxwells, the Coveys, whoever you get information from and learn from. Get all that information together, and then you have to decide what part of each part of that learning process that you learn will best help your people and your organization get better.
Yeah.
Because no one out there has the solution for everything. And I took bits and pieces from a whole bunch of people and said, okay, now I have to meet my people where they are and give them what they need to get inspired and equip them. And so I believe that you're going to take a lot of information from a lot of different sources and then figure out what's best for your organization. And that's how your organization is going to thrive, because you're going to meet them where they are. You're not going to bring a book in and go, hey, we're going to go implement this.
Yeah, because a cookie cutter approach for any situation is never going to work. So I really like how you do have people, just like you told that general to go purchase, your competitor's devices because that worked for them. So the whole thing is you want to figure out what works for you from multiple different sources, and then you create your own paradigm. So.
Right. So I'll leave you with the story. I had a general from another country in the Middle East come to me in London last September and give me a coin. And he said, Art, I want you to have this coin. We only made 100 of them. It's a commemorative coin in their country. And he says, I want you to know, Art, that you and your people at Datron have served our country, and it was the country of Jordan, more from your heart than any other company we've ever done business with.
Wow.
Now, that's the real definition of servant leadership, when the people you serve see that you're serving them from your heart, right? And not from your pocketbook. So that's what I wanted to leave your guests with today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, that really, that's something that it doesn't matter what you try and implement when you have your own, these organizations or these countries come to you. I mean, that's really all the credit you need. And it shows how influential you all are. So,
yep.
Well, Art Barter, thank you so much for being an amazing guest on my show today. Thank you once again for coming back and joining with us for the second time. If my listeners would like to find out more information about you and about Datron and all the amazing things you do, plus purchase this book, Art of Servant Leadership Part 2, How You Get Results is More Important Than the Results Themselves, where would they find this information online?
Go to the Servant Leadership Institute and spell it out. I know it's long, but do it. .com. You'll get all the information. You can search my name, Art Barter, Servant Leadership Institute. Servant Leadership will pop up in usually the first page or two. And a lot of information is out on the servantleadershipinstitute.com website.
Excellent. So what my listeners also know what I do is if they're not able to find your book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any other digital stores, simply go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com. And in the store there, you can also find this book, The Art of Servant Leadership Part 2. Art Barter, thank you once again for being a phenomenal guest. I really do appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me back, James. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
I also want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in today. Please subscribe to this radio show through whichever portal you joined with us today, or please go to my website where you may sign up for my free newsletter, watch my YouTube episodes, read the articles I've written specifically for you, or you may enroll in the Lifeology Academy where you can take self-directed courses which will help you simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. If you'd like to personally work with me, be a guest on, or advertise on this show, simply visit jamesmillerlifeology.com. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms under the name James Miller Lifeology, except for Twitter, which is James M. Lifeology. Once again, thank you so much for your support, and I'll talk to you soon.
AM/FM 247, the best in talk and music all day and every day.